Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. I'm your host Sonali Nigam, and today I'm joined by Zoe, CEO UK and US at Clinch Infosystem, entrepreneur as well. Hi Zoe, thank you so much
Hi,
for joining us.
my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's great to speak to you.
Same here. So would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm probably a bit of a Swiss Army knife, to be perfectly honest, in terms of things I've achieved throughout my career. So I suppose very early on, I've always had a kind of a bit of a leadership mindset, and I suppose a bit of an entrepreneurial way about me without even actually realising it. To the point where I probably started my Saturday job at the age of 14, selling jacket potatoes in a shopping centre in Coventry. And every now and then we would get these like leadership boards where we would upsell things like that, medium drinks to large drinks. I would always win that. And when I was at college, I also I actually ran a kiosk, a food kiosk at the age of 16, 17, alongside my college hours. So, yeah, very, very early on, I've always been in a leadership position and running a pizza shop in Nuneaton, a brand new pizza shop at the age of 20 as well. So there was always something in there. I was always somebody that picks up things and learns quite quickly. But my dream was always to join the police force. So on that journey, I joined a logistics company, the white van driver, and then promoted very, very quickly during that process. And that was Hayes DX Field Support, which then became Buy Box, which is now Inventory. So we grew from 0 to 75 million in the space of 10 years, in the Fast Track 100. And we were number 12, I think, in 2010. So those dates might not be correct, so if you not quote me on that. So yeah, and doing many roles during Buy Box, as a startup, and helping that business grow, and that's something that I actually like. I do like startup world. That's where I suppose where the entrepreneurial mindset comes in, an underpinning of caring about what I do, and how I achieve things in businesses that I work for. So yeah, as again alluding to the Swiss Army knife, it's all about leading people, getting stuff done, and very, very, different verticals. I've worked across healthcare, tech, energy. Oh my God, weird and wonderful things. So yeah, I'm just somebody that likes to work hard and get stuff done, and likes people to be on that journey alongside with me and to be happy, of course, at the same time.
Wow, wow. So starting from nowhere to now building your own, building your own organization and building your own startup. So what do you attribute your growth to?
Caring about what you do, really.
Uh-huh.
I think I think that has to be an underpinning of enjoying what you do, caring about what you do. And certainly for me, I've never been somebody that will just do a job just for the sake of it. I think it's motivating others as well. I've always been one. I've actually identified people on that journey that that think, oh, actually, they don't seem quite happy, and why is that? And I think that's because I care. I care about people, hence the policing element to it as well.
Yeah.
Um, it is just, yeah, trust, relationships, building on all of that, and sticking to your word, and not telling lies to people, is always being honest and having those difficult conversation early, that you benefit from that in the long term for sure.
Mm-hmm. Truly. And that's, you talked about trust. You talked about building relationship. So what would you say your biggest learning as an owner of the business running successfully?
For me, it's having the right people on that journey with you, and it's sharing what the vision is. Because I think I've identified working with other people that they have this vision, it's very much in their head, and I think they're just so busy with their own goal that you can also become tunnel visions. And when you share that vision with others and going, hey, this is where we want to get to, are you here with me? That works. I think that is a success, and actually respecting people as well and what they're doing, and actually understanding what motivates others. Is it praise? Is it money? What is it? And because people are very, very different, and that's what I love. I love how understanding how people how people tick and, what is the motivating factor for them and making sure they're happy. If people are happy, you get the best out of them, for sure, and I think that works really, really well.
Mm-hmm. So, talking about the people, I mean, yes, it impact a lot in the term of business as well, because we have employees around us who work for us, and it is very important to keep them happy. So, what qualities do you look for in employees when you hire them, and how do you foster a positive and a productive work environment? You talked so much about the people, so yes, people are centric to all the organization, and by people I meant employees. So, what qualities do you look for in employees when you hire them? And how do you foster a positive and a productive work environment?
Yeah, so they are. So for me as well, no egos. I think I've worked with people where they have a certain title and they think they're entitled to certain things, whether that be a parking space near the door or, a certain chair in an office or, whichever. For me, I think regardless of whatever title you have, everyone is important, right? There's a part to play that everyone has as an organization. So if I refer back to the time when I was at Buybox, and I was very proud to work there, the customer support function could sometimes be deemed as the bottom of a triangle. And for me, I would term that they would be the top of my hierarchy, because if they did their job the best to their ability, and I would
Mhm.
invest that in time and invest my time in them and share what my customer was about. And again, going back to that consequence scenario, if a part wasn't delivered on time, the consequence in healthcare is very, very different to, a TV monitor, let's say. If they did their job to the best of their ability, it would diffuse and it would stop the noise that I would certainly receive as an account manager at that point in time. So it's the willingness to learn, it's the adaptability, it's the can-do attitude. I certainly look for attitude within people, and it's really interesting to know, because I met with again, it was an old client of mine, and he created his own business, and it's a coffee service solution.
Yeah.
And he built his business is very, very successful, just on people that cared about what they were doing and can-do attitude. So
Wow.
for me, I wouldn't necessarily look for people with a degree unless it's obviously relevant. If we employ people at Clinch that need to be able to code, then
Mhm.
they have to have that skill set, right? The same as a doctor, a surgeon, whichever. So it has its importance there, but ultimately, it's not having that ego. It's having that personality where you can have fun along the way. They want to be part of this journey, sharing that vision, and they're with you along the way, and you can achieve wonderful things. So yeah, attitude is absolutely the really important thing that I would certainly look for. Everything else can be learned.
Wow, what a strong point that you've made. And I'm sure there are a lot of business owners who are listening to you at the minute. So, what are some common misconceptions and of running a business, and how do you address them?
I suppose for me, it's because I've worked a lot in startup. It's building trust from the beginning. It's doing that, and that's quite difficult. Sometimes that takes time. For me, it's I've got, I've worked with a lot of business owners and, and senior people in lots of industries and lots of companies. And I have that trust there, fortunately. So it's easy for me to open the door. But if it's a new product, a new solution, it's taking that time, particularly at Clinch as well. We've been going since 2021, the Shiv and the team, fantastic. They have so much empathy and want to do the right thing by the client, that trying to get that message across, because we're posting on LinkedIn, it's on our website, but actually having people believe in us and saying, actually, Clinch do care. We have to kind of prove ourselves first. So for me tonight, that's the challenge at the moment, is getting the Clinch name out there, and
Right.
saying, what, we're different because we care. And if something does go wrong, we're by your side every single step of the way. And we're good fun to work with as well. We're personable. So that's the challenge that I think that I have at the moment. And that's, common in some startups as well that I've seen across the years.
You've talked about challenges, Zoe. So yes, talk a bit more about it so that our viewers get to know. So what are the challenges that you're facing currently, and how do you plan to tackle them?
It's growth and awareness. Certainly for Clinch, and again, I'm proud to work for Clinch. I'm proud of what we can do, and what we've achieved so far. And I want to do that so much more because, I've worked with tech teams and we've built new products either internally or had an external agency, and it's been quite clunky and quite it's over. So I think there's a thing that I always use: don't overcomplicate things. Try and keep it simple as much as possible, and that's what Clinch do. And for me, it's just really, 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 really important that we're there every step of the way and going. We want to be here for you, and just getting that name out there. It is the market's tough now. It is.
Yeah.
We've got AI. Clinch, we utilize AI, we want to help people, but we want to be a partner. We want to be a trusted partner. We don't want transactional relationships. We want Clinch to feel a part of any organization and be there for you and take that pain away. We want to solve a problem and take that pain away. That's all I ever want to do in any business that I go to, is solve problems and help people.
Zoe, in every word, all I could hear is care. I care for people. I care for people I work for. I care for people who are with us. I mean, that
Yeah.
is such a loud and a clear message, and which is so important to hear. And I mean, I'm amazed here. But of course, our podcast has to continue. So, my next question for you will be, how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Boundaries. Boundaries are so important. And I instilled this at the last company I was at, which was Rebound, and they're part of Economy Group, a fantastic organisation, and I was very proud to work there. And I was very protective of my team. If they went on holiday, they've earned their holiday. When they went on holiday, they should not be contacted by me or by
Wow.
anyone within the organisation. So I would be, that protective shield that now enabled them. And it was like I had to instill boundaries with them as well. And to the point where I actually brought in a coach, a leadership coach that helped people and go, right, what are my boundaries? Because again, I think this is quite a new thing to some. People thought there was a badge of honor. You had to work 18 hours a day because the world failed if you didn't. You had to burn
Yeah.
yourself into the ground. It's changed now. There are some people that still work that way, and I admire them, but I don't think you get the best. You don't get the best out of me, and you don't get the best out of people that our team. If there's something that really needs doing, absolutely we work hard, but they will be rewarded for that, and they will have that downtime. You have to reset. It's important to share that time with your family. Your friends. Break away, breathe. So for me, it is instilling that, holding my boundaries, and having them boundaries, and actually resetting so I can be the best that I can be in any organisation that I'm at, for sure.
Wow, Zoe, thank you so much for those wonderful lines. I think many will like to follow that as well. Zoe, I'm just curious to ask one question. So, if you could do it all over again, how would you do it? I mean, you get a magic wand to, just start all over again. I mean, what would that look like?
Oh, that's a good question, Solani. Really, really good question, because I suppose I'm somebody that just thinks something's happened for a reason.
Right.
I wanted to join the police, and then I took this white van job for a little while, and then my career took off, and I ended up in logistics for like 16 years. Um, yeah, very, very different. I suppose for me, when I was younger, I think I allowed myself to be spoken to in a way that I certainly would not allow now. And also, and again, it comes back to that ego point that I made, where people, they were in a sales director position and they would click their fingers at other people, and were quite rude. And they thought they were above others. Whereas now, me, I would actually call that behaviour out and say, that's not okay to talk to people in that way. It's not right. We're all as important as each other's. So I think calling those behaviours out, and actually instilling that's something. So when I join an organization, this is why I make it so clear that no one's better than anyone else. You know,
Wow.
we're all the same. We're all great people. We've all got different responsibilities. We're paid differently, of course, in some some roles, but we are absolutely the same. So calling out those poor behaviours for
Mm.
sure. I've always had a caring nature, so that's always been there. That's something that
I can
I
hear
wouldn't.
that.
Yeah, I, I I can say to others, care about what you do, care about your people, and you get so much more out of them. Um, yeah, I suppose that it's really you've actually really got me there. What would I change? Because I am a believer in things have happened for a reason. But I think it's probably calling out behavioural traits that aren't ideal early on and learning from that. I've always worked hard, and it's I think there's pivotal times in your life where you learn from others that are senior to you. And there's one thing that always sticks in my mind when we was at Buybox, and it was the CTO at the time. And I said, I'm very lucky to have the job that I've had. And he told me off quite sternly, but in a nice way. He said, you are not lucky. You've worked hard. And I'm like, okay, let's recognise, because I think the one thing I would say to people is imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
I've always felt that. And I think it's a bit of an elephant in the room, and everyone feels imposter syndrome, and that's okay. I think if you feel that, you need to flip it. And then Stephen Bartlett mentioned this actually on a podcast previously, is you are self-aware. So having imposter syndrome is a positive because you are self-aware, but just remember, reframe it as a positive and go, hey, I'm in this for a reason. I've probably been doing this job for years, so how is it imposter syndrome? So I think that's probably a tip there for me, for anyone else.
Zoe, thank you for that question. Sorry, I did not want you to be, thinking back again, but I just felt like because you've achieved so much, there's so much that I hear from your journey. So, what differently it would have been if you got a chance. So, thank you so much for answering that question beautifully, and that was just so inspirational. So, is there any closing remark that you would like to share with our audience? A golden nugget, maybe, that audience can take away.
Live by your moral compass. Do the best you can do. Share your vision. Have fun along the way. Get people. Inspire others. Get them on this journey with you. You'll just see so much more out of people when you do that, for sure. And yeah, just help other businesses. When people are, help other founders get on their journey. Support them. Anything you can do to small business owners, help them and get them on the way. And I'm on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to connect with me and ask any further questions, I'm also happy to take those as well.
Wow, thank you so much, Zoe, for being available, for being honest, and for being so clear with your sharings. So thank you so much for your time today. It was great meeting you and knowing so much about your journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to see you in my next episode. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.